So good morning, and let me say before we say anything else that always I am just delighted to be here on a Sunday morning, and it's delicious to be here with each and every one of you. When you are not here, it is felt, and when you are here, it is that much richer. I'm so grateful that we have this community and each other to come together in, to share, to grow, to love, and just to continue expanding. It's just awesome. So, with the beginning of the month of March, actually I think the last day of February, we started a 30-day mental diet, a cleansing of our minds, much as we might, just as Judy mentioned, begin to clean house this time of year. At the house there this past week, Mike has been very busy. He's transplanted bushes and bulbs and laid that, what is that stuff, that fabric, that landscaping fabric, and then put down mulch, and we've gone back and forth to Walmart so many times, I think they're sick of me. I don't care, just take my money, give me the mulch, and let's go. But it's just been fun, and it's been amazing to watch it all come together and bloom and blossom. Everything piped out this week, and the little, finally, daffodils and things started doing their thing, so it's been great. Since we started this process 2 weeks ago, we shared an affirmation card with an affirmation to be spoken at least once a day out loud, and encouraged some ways to deal with thoughts and feelings of the past, the present, and our concerns about the future. Next week, we're going to continue with Dale Allen Hoffman and recognize that toning is just another way. We're looking at thoughts, we're looking at feelings, we can look at toning, and that is a way of approaching the world and putting out there what it is that we want to have going out there and becoming acted upon by law and become reality for us. So my question to you is, as we have been doing this, are you enjoying it? Has it been useful? Are you gaining tools and ideas of things that you can take away and use, make them your own, and have them to create your life the way that you want it to be? Is it working for you? So yeah, good. I'm glad to hear it. Let's see. As Carol mentioned, it is part of what we do here is focusing and clearly looking at how can we as individuals and as a community work to creating a world that is better indeed for each and every one of us. And what we understand is that the seeds of change, really those little seedlings, have to start from within, and that is the way that the shifting of the world into a more harmonious, complete situation for everyone, I think, is going to come about. We understand that intuitively and instinctually, I believe. And of course, we understand in science of mind that when we do that for ourselves, we are doing that for everyone, whether they're present or not, whether they're in the future tense, the past tense, or in the present tense, however it is. So if you have missed either of the last 2 weeks, let me say that those messages will be on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. They aren't there yet. Mike tried to load them Friday, and he ran into a little bit of a problem, but they should be up momentarily. So you can go to YouTube, put in Opendoor CSL, one word, CSL, Opendoor CSL, and that will pull them up. So we do this mental housekeeping because we understand that whatever it is that's going on up here in our minds and our thoughts, if it's controlling that part of us, it's controlling our lives, okay? It has predominance over the insipid things, okay, that are going on in our worlds. So we understand that it's really important to get a handle on that. So as I mentioned, we've looked at thoughts. Last week we looked at feelings, one feeling at a time, how we can work with our emotional material in our emotional body, if you will, and shift that stuff so that it's always going to be, even if it's somewhat unpleasant, it's going to be more malleable for us, more livable. This week we're going to look at words, and I could probably speak from now until Christmas about words, because that is truly what we are all about in the science of mind teaching. We won't do that. We'll contain it to this one Sunday, one little word at a time. What I want to say about words, before I say anything else, is that words are incredibly powerful. Words are reflective of whatever it is that we are thinking. Sometimes, I'm sure that you might be able to relate, I find myself on auto mouth or something, and whatever it is that I'm thinking sneaks out before I have a chance to censor it or stop it altogether, okay? Because sometimes we have those thoughts that don't need to be aired or broadcasted, okay? But words also have the capacity to change our thoughts. So, when we choose our words, if we are very conscious about it and attentive to it, even if we are having one of those thoughts that we know doesn't need to be broadcast in that moment or at any point in time, we can change the words that we speak, and it will literally go back inside and change those thoughts. It's powerful. Words are powerful, and there's a couple of things that come to mind when I think about that. I didn't know this until the last couple of years or so, but the word repent is a really powerful word for many people. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes in my day job, I get to travel the region, the 7-county region, for, about 10 weeks out of the year, visiting the classrooms that I work with. And what happens inevitably is that I will see these signs that say John 3:16 or repent, okay? And I always love seeing the ones about repent now, because what I understand that word to mean is not what is taught in some circles. What I understand repent to mean is to think differently. It's simply an advisement. Check your thinking and change the tone of it, change the nature of it. It's not, behold ye lousy sinner, get down on your knees and grovel and, make amends for what you've done. Okay? That's not it at all. When we look at the origins of the word, it has nothing to do with being wrong and everything to do with an advisement to simply look at how am I thinking and what can I do differently. Another word that I love, and for those of you who are in our Speaking of Money class, you will possibly remember this, is the word debt. One of the first things we do in Speaking of Money is we eliminate that word from our vocabulary. And there's a reason for that. That word harkens all the way back to the time in different European cultures when people were imprisoned, okay, literally put in a prison, in an earthen prison or hole, okay, because they could not pay their accounts payable, okay. If you recall the term debtor's prison, that's where the word debt originates from. And so the first thing we do is get that word out of our minds, out of our vocabulary, out of our consciousness, because we in no way ever want to be imprisoned by our past expenditures. They were just expenditures. They were choices we made with the money we had and the opportunities that were given in that time. When we look at them as wrong, we anchor them and make them bigger than they need to be. When you sit down to pay your bills, bless them suckers, okay? Say thank you for them. I know one minister who walks to the mailbox. She won't let anybody else in her community do it. She walks to the mailbox, and as she's going, she's blessing everything that's in it, okay? I know this woman, she's thinking about money in that mailbox, okay? I understand that. Churches need money to survive. That's a reality of life, okay? But she's also blessing all of the accounts payable and knowing that they have more than enough, ample abundance to pay those, and be grateful for the fact that, guess what? The water company is billing you for water you already used. The power company is billing you for power that you've already heated and cooled and refrigerated and bathed in and all of that, okay, as a result of. So we take that word debt completely out of our vocabulary. It's an amazing resource. If you go online to Unity, the Unity movement has a metaphysical Bible dictionary on their website. They actually have a Bible translation, a metaphysical Bible translation component too. This stuff is massive. Any word that came out of the Bible, you can go in there. There's an A to Z accounting. And if you can find that word in their dictionary, you can click on it, and it will come up and it will tell you, yeah, the standard meaning. So Bethlehem, we understand that's a place in Judea, however you say it, okay? But we also understand that the metaphysical meaning is the very core source of substance. Now, doesn't it make a lot of sense that perfect consciousness in the form of possibly Jesus the Christ would come into being from a place of perfect substance, perfect presentation of the universe, okay? Doesn't get any more wholer than that. It's crazy stuff how we have taken and changed languages and adapted and adopted and really turned our languages, and really all of them, into not such a pretty picture at times. So. Now, it might seem, when you think about the fact that words have the power to really change things, it might seem like a very far stretch. But let's look at where part of that is anchored in. A couple of years ago here at Opendoor Center, where's my book? Here's my book, okay? This week it's A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen. How many of you were in that class a couple of years ago? Yeah, I told Katie this morning, I think we're going to do this one again. It was a lot of fun, okay? And I think everybody was totally, shafted by the end of it, because I don't think anybody reached the goal. The goal of the class, when we did it here at Opendoor, was to put together 21 consecutive days without complaining, okay? Will Bowen is a master author and storyteller. He is fabulous. It's a sweet and easy, well, I'm not going to say sweet. Let me back out of that. It's a bit distressing, although it's an easy read, because what you find is yourself on every page, or at least I did. Goodbye, Will. Sorry about that. It's really a great read. I think we're going to get copies of that and do it again. So, but one of the experiences that I had in that class was really kind of humorous. Now, if you've been around here for a while, and most of you have, okay, you have recognized that there are times when my language probably leaves something to be desired. The family story is this. I come by it honestly. I just want you to know, okay? My mother told me when I was about 4 or 5 years old that the first word I ever said began with S, okay? It ended with T, and it wasn't sit, okay? You can figure out the rest of it, okay? Truth, that's family lore. Now, my mother's long gone, and my brothers are probably too old to care or remember, but I still find that a totally humorous story, okay? My language is known far and wide. I just want you to know, not just because of YouTube and things like that, but people know me because they say, how could you ever be a minister because of your mouth? I'm like, well, some things change and sometimes they don't change completely. So I have had the title for years of Irreverent Reverend, so what can I say, okay? So at any rate, we were moving through Complaint-Free World, and I was trying to clean my language up, okay? And I came in one week and I said to the class, so instead of that word that I love, I've chosen to use the word Shazam, okay? Shades of Gomer Pyle, right? Okay? Well, Tony pipes up. Don't you remember Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel from the old DC comic book series, okay, was the face, the presentation, if you will, of Shazam. And the story in the comics was very simple and short and sweet. Somehow this kind of, sort of, I don't want to throw off on him, but kind of like, mousy radio announcer, kind of unassuming guy. His name was Billy Batson, okay? Had to look that up, okay? Billy Batson had this encounter with like a wizard, an ancient wizard. Anything can happen in the comics or TV, right? And the wizard's name was Shazam. And so Shazam christened Billy Batson with special powers, and all he had to do was say one word, Shazam, okay? And he would step into a consciousness where he had magical superhero like archetypal powers, and he could save people and do wonderful things for human beings and mankind. Okay? I was never a comic book kid. Some people were. My mom thought they were trash and said, here, read a book instead. That was kind of her thing, okay? But so we started laughing and talking about Shazam big time here at Opendoor, okay? And recognizing that it was simply through the utterance of a single word that this man was able to change life, okay? Bring about great changes, amazing things happen. Well, it's okay for a superhero and a comic book series and maybe even a kid's movie, right? But what about the rest of us? I mean, do you really think one word can change everything? Words are powerful. That same minister who prays, who knows and holds in high consciousness everything in the mailbox, had a child out on a body of water in a small boat, and the child, an errant wave came through, and the child was thrown up in the air and was getting ready to go into the ocean, and this minister screamed, safe, and that child landed in the boat. Don't know how, okay? True story. Words are incredibly potent. How we speak them, what we mean by them, what is the deeper, if you will, psychic or energetic meaning behind a word is huge, and how we receive them is major too. I was born, my mother was 42 when I was born. 2 older brothers already, mostly through high school. Her health was not good. She smoked with both hands, okay? I came along at probably 26 or 28 weeks. I weighed 2 pounds and 7 ounces. I have something that was filled out at the hospital that says that, okay? So there's no exaggeration there, okay? When I finally came home from the hospital, I proceeded to contract everything you could contract, okay, that came near me. And for the first 5 or 6 years of my life, I was always sick. Excuse me, but I was always retching or blowing or crying or whining. And most of those 5 years, I spent sitting in the living room on the couch, okay? That became my whatever, safety net or something, okay, my bed. My mother, who was a stay-at-home mom, as many were in that, in that culture, probably was just over it, okay? By the time I'd been home from the hospital a month, who knows, okay? I know that she had a lot of patience, and I'm not sure she might have deserved canonization. I don't know, okay? Given what happened after I got up into, like my teen years, I know she did after then, because I was a mess for a while. But at any rate, as you well know, many of you, at any rate, she would walk past me and realize that I was on the couch in the middle of some wad, okay, crying and whining and carrying on, and she would look at me and she would say, "What's wrong with you?" Okay? And that's probably how she said it too. Okay? Now I don't share that with you to gain your sympathy or your pity or, none of that. But when you are on the receiving end of something like that, even if you are 55 years old and sitting in your boss's office, it's not a fun situation. What I heard when she said that was, there is something wrong with you. Okay? And until I was 30-something years old, I absolutely felt deficient, flawed, incomplete, unable, incompetent. Throw every word you want to put in it. Okay? Again, I don't share any of that to, dramatize my life or call attention to me. That's just how words impact us. Okay? They're huge. They have tremendous bearing. And I tell you, the more I am clear on this, the more I have literally gotten in people's faces and said, stop, right now. You're not going to speak to me in a certain way. You can stop it or go. because I'm not gonna have it. Okay,
That's good.
it's really a significant thing. And the way we do that is we just listen to our guts. Does it feel right or does it not? Does it feel light or heavy? If it feels heavy, don't take it on as your own. It's probably somebody else's mess, okay? At any rate, okay, besides all of that, we are often unconscious when it comes to just words in general and the impact that they have. One of the things that Will does in this book, and one of the things that I think makes it such a little bit of a treasure, okay, is that he takes our consciousness, our awareness, and he breaks it down into 4 stages of awareness or understanding about what we are doing. And of course, in this sense, it's about complaining. But the same 4 steps really apply. Can we see the next slide there, Kathy? There we go. And in this situation, Will Bowen is using the word competence or incompetence in reference to our level of awareness about, in his case, complaining. Okay? The first state that he talks about is unconscious incompetence. And this is where somebody really has no idea of what their words are meaning, or what kind of an impact, what kind of effect, what they're doing with words when they launch them, if you will. In unconscious incompetence, we are essentially under the influence of whatever it is that we are saying. We don't realize how much our words or our complaining, in fact, affect things. In fact, in this stage, most people, it's unconscious. So people will say, I don't complain that much. Why would it be such a big deal to not complain for 21 days? I'm like, get yourself in this class, honey. Let's see how you like it then. Because it really is incredible, okay? We're just completely unaware of what we're doing with words and not only what the effect is for our lives, but for all of life, okay? At some point, something begins to wake us up. Maybe somebody gets back in our faces, okay? Or, we encounter some crazy witchy woman, okay, with a copy of The Complaint-Free World, or somebody just says something. Maybe you could just stop griping all of the time. It would be interesting to, kind of know what your thoughts are when they weren't, in that vein, okay? In conscious incompetence, we start to become aware of the words we're speaking, and again, in Will's case, in the complaining that we are doing. Maybe we get the purple bracelet, and the purple bracelet is an artifact of the Complaint-Free World. When you start, you get the bracelet, and every time you complain, you put it on the other wrist. So if you find yourself changing the wrist for your bracelet 27,000 times a day, you know that you've had quite a few interesting things to say. In this second process, we're getting conscious. And what's happened is, what happens is it doesn't feel good. Okay? In fact, it feels horrible. It's really pretty uncomfortable. Will Bowen tells us in the book, we will succeed through our failings. What he means is that as we shed light, greater and greater light on this, we become more and more aware of what we're doing with the words we speak, with the complaining in his situation that we're doing, and we begin to change that around. We have to make conscious the negative ways in which we are using language in order to clean it up. It really is a powerful process. In the third stage, we're really getting the handle of it. And what happens is most of the time, we find out we don't have anything to say, because what we would say would have been a complaint or some kind of ugly, sarcastic remark, okay? Here we become aware of everything we say, and we kind of get, really hypersensitive with it. We take to heart the statement by Swami Kripavananji, before speaking, consider whether it is an improvement upon silence. We learn to breathe. One of my first spiritual mentors, I would ask him a question, and he would do this. I got so tired of watching him breathe with his eyes shut and feeling like I was just frustrating him to no end. But what I realized was that he was very much in this conscious competence place where he was trying to be as loving and articulate and clean with his language. What a gift that is. Just to keep somebody from going shooting off their mouth, okay? You know, you might as well be shooting off a gun in some situations, okay? To speaking with clarity and you know, consciousness, wow, that's huge, okay? At the time it didn't feel good, you know? But we learn to breathe just like my friend Buck did, okay? Before we say anything. It might make for long phone calls. People might go, are you there? Did you drop out? Can you hear me now, okay? So we might find ourselves continuously looking for the right words and see that our vocabularies expand, okay? Because they will, they do. We get to a place where we refuse to use words or our minds as a weapon that predicates an unsuccessful future. Bowen tells a really amazing story in his book about this period of his experience in this consciousness. He was originally from South Carolina, or as an adult was living in South Carolina. And he had to make a trip that was about 100 miles. And for some odd reason, he borrowed someone's truck. And the truck was an old Ford 150 with like a gazillion miles on it. The truck got about 20 miles to the gallon of oil. The truck was not a great, happy vehicle, but it ran. So he loads up Gibson, his dog, okay, and they get in the truck and they go to wherever they're going. And I believe it was on the return trip that all of a sudden the check engine light comes on. And then the engine quits and he glides to a stop. Now he's on this really rural expanse of two-lane highway out in the middle of Nowheresville, South Carolina. He says, like for 13 miles, there's like 10 houses. I mean, there's nothing, okay? As it turns out, the vehicle quits in front of someone's house. So he looks at Gibson, and rather than take the low road, he says to the dog, I know this is going to work out fine. Maybe I can go use their phone, because he didn't even have a cell phone with him. I don't know if this was before cell phone times or what. So he goes to the door, the man comes when he knocks, and the guy says, well, what kind of vehicle are you driving? And he says, oh, well, it's a kind of an aged Ford F-150. And the guy kind of lights up and he says, oh, I'm the service manager at the local Ford dealership. No, really? Okay. So he gets his tools and he goes out to the truck and they look around, and they talk a bit. And he finally leans back and he tells Bowen, you don't need a mechanic. This is not an auto mechanic problem. What you need is a plumber. And I'm no plumber, no surveyor. I don't know the first thing about plumbing. And again, rather than take the low road, Bowen goes, well, do you think I could use your phone? About that time, the guy cuts him off and he says, but you know what? My dad is here. He's visiting from Kentucky. He's a plumber. Let's go see if he can help us. So they get Dad out there. This is a true story, okay? The plumber looks at the truck and he kind of hems and haws and he says, well, what you need is a piece of rubber tubing about this long and about this big a wide. And about that time, the auto mechanic's son says, you mean like this? He's got a piece of tubing like this, in his auto mechanic's toolbox. And the dad looks at him and says, where did that come from? And the son says, I don't know, it just showed up on my workbench like 2 weeks ago, and I don't know where it came from or what I kept it for, but I didn't want to throw it out. So they put the piece of tubing on the truck, and the truck cranks up, and Will gets to go down his merry way. Only there's still a problem, okay? Because he realizes that he's got like X number of miles to go, and he's down to 1 quart of oil. And yes, he brought lots of oil with him, but all of this has caused a good bit of oil, okay? And he realizes there's almost nowhere to stop. So he drives till he sees the next gas station, and he pulls in. And as he's getting there, The guy is standing out front, locking the door, closing. It's 6 p.m. It's South Carolina, Saturday afternoon, it's all over, okay? He runs to the door before the guy can get away, and he says, I need oil. I have to have some motor oil. He gets inside the building. The guy lets him in, and he's willing to wait while he picks something out. He goes to the motor oil that he usually uses, and he looks at it, and he realizes that he doesn't have a lot of cash. And he pulls out like $4 and change in his pocket, and he realizes that will only buy half the amount of oil that he really truly needs to get all the way home. So he takes what he can afford, and he goes to the counter, and he says to the guy, really, I need twice this much oil, and I don't know, can I send you some money or something, because this truck, you can see the condition of it, it's in very poor shape. Really, I need a quart like every 20 miles. I have to stop and check it constantly. And the guy says, oh, don't get this kind. Look right here, there's this display, it's on half price. And frankly, I think it's a better product than what you picked out. He got all the motor oil he needed for $4 and change. Okay, after finding a plumber in the middle of Nowheresville, Kentucky, at the home of an auto mechanic who would never happen to have a piece of rubber hosing, tubing, whatever, in his, toolbox. Okay, the way we look at situations changes them. Wayne Dyer tells us the way we look at things changes them. Okay, it literally refabricates, what's the word? Substances that I want.
Alchemy.
Okay. Through the alchemy, thank you. Literally, we speak a word and we know that things change. I've shared with you before the story of my friend practitioner over in Asheville, Sherry Free. Her middle initial, by the way, is B. And so we all just roll around every time we start talking, Sherry, be free, okay? Sherry was on the way to a job interview and was in an auto accident a couple of years ago. She was out on 26, and she was stuck in the vehicle. Her foot or her ankle or something was pinned in the vehicle. She couldn't get out. So rather than, other people are calling 911, she's calling the ministers, okay, because she knows, okay, she said something there's a higher law here, okay, I'm going to speak with that, forget the, get the doc here too, but, that's a secondary thing, okay. So they get her to the hospital, and the ministers are there, and they're praying, and they're praying that it's not broken, whatever, her foot or ankle or whatever, okay. And this nurse comes through, and she says, it's great news. We looked at the x-rays, it's only a sprain. So the orthopedic doc comes in and he says, it's really bad news. It would be much better off if it was broken. If it was broken, it would be much better to fix, okay? It's a sprain and it's not good at all. This is the worst possible scenario. So they stop praying for it to be sprained and they start praying for it to be broken. And a few minutes later, this nurse is walking by, totally uninvolved in this. She looks at the x-ray in the light box and she says, that's a hairline fracture right there. It is too broken. She grabs the x-ray and goes running off after the orthopedic doc and the radiologist and all. They changed the diagnosis half a dozen times and prayer just kept going back and forth. Okay? We'll fix it for you. That's what we do. Okay? It's amazing. Bowers, in his little saga in the truck, just managed to stay on the high road. He managed to keep his word conforming with what he wanted to see happen. We did the same thing with Sherry, be free, okay? In the fourth level of consciousness, where am I? Hello? Yeah, here we go, okay? We are at a point where we have learned and mastered what amounts to another language, okay? You will remember a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so ago, I showed a couple of pictures, and we talked about the pinball machine. Remember the pinball machine? You pull the handle, the little ball goes, dun, 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 and it lights things up. Well, the same thing happens when we think, when we feel, when we have anything along those lines. We are lighting up neuronal pathways. Millions of neurons in the brain are literally lighting up and are activated. Over time, we think the same thought, we think the same thought, we think the same thought. We create a superhighway, if you will, in the architecture of the brain, okay? When we begin to try to change our thinking and change our languaging, It's much like that mostly naked man with the machete that was the other picture that I only put up there because I knew you gals would like it. No, I'm kidding, okay? But he's out there whacking a new way through the vegetation, changing thought, changing words, and changing what goes out into the world. It isn't always easy at first, but as we do it and do it and do it and do it, it becomes more automatic, more conscious, more who and what and how we are. How's that for saying it? I think I got what I was trying to say in there, okay? So, we literally begin to change things, okay? In his experience with the truck, Will Bowen chose the high road. In his writings, Ernest Holmes differentiates between what he refers to as facts, okay, and truth. Facts are pretty simple, okay? I am 29 plus years old, and you can hold the laughter, thank you, okay? 29 plus years old, female living in Western North Carolina, okay? Those are facts. The truth is that whatever I am, whatever each and every one of us is that we are genderless. We never were born. We just showed up, okay? We will not die. The truth of us can't be extinguished, okay? We can't stop it. Whatever love is, it just changes residence. It just moves from one home to another. Will Bowen walked the words and the thoughts and the actions of truth when he walked through that experience with the truck. And he knew that it would change things. And it did. Okay? Remember, very early on in all of this, Ernest Holmes had an amazing awareness. And that was that the universe does not play favorites. If something can happen for one of us, it can happen for any one of us. That's all I have to say about it. Okay? When we live that fourth state of unconscious competence, we get to the point where very often we turn away and have nothing to say because the only thing we might say is not something we want to say. It's not something we want to perpetuate. And we begin to live that way. And what happens, and Bowen talks about this, is after a while, if you're focused on complaining and stopping, and you do, you literally begin to reframe your reality and your perception and perspective and vocabulary, all in big words all at once, okay? And begin to perpetuate something that is more powerful, more potent, more positive for you. Those people that wanted to complain, they'll just disappear. I don't know where they'll go, but they will go somewhere else. The only difficult part about that is some of them may be like, you may share a last name with them, yeah, right, or they could be family, could be mom and dad, or, somebody like that, your kids. But over a long haul, you will begin to see a much more positive reality. So if you want to, and this is only a choice, it's then a challenge, it's only a suggestion. One thing you can do, if you really want to get a handle on how you talk and what it sounds like and the words that you are choosing, and perhaps begin to shift into way more conscious competence, okay, with speech. I can't imagine anybody here in the Science of Mind community just being completely unconscious and incompetent when it comes to the language. And we understand the power and potential of words, I think, too much here. But if you want to begin to shift this, here's a suggestion. Most cell phones will allow you to record things. So sometime when you're having a conversation, and you can even pick the conversations you're having, you might want to forewarn the person you're conversing with so that I think it's legal as long as you forewarn them, okay? I actually did this we do share the last name still, but we're not married anymore. You know, one of those conversations. I said, I'm taping this conversation now. Boy, did things change quick, okay? But with them, not me. I was perfect, of course. But even before Science of Mind, not really. But you can tape what you're saying, okay? And see, listen to, you know, play it back and think about, oh man, is that really what I want to send out there? Okay? Is that really what I meant? Okay? When I said something to someone. I've been so incredibly fortunate and gifted to have people in my world who really spoke consciously to me from all of my life, from the beginning forward. I also want to say that if the whole language thing, and maybe I might already mention this, the metaphysical interpretation of things is interesting to you, check out that Unity website, because it is really fascinating to me. You know, if you look at the history of modern Christian literature, it has been translated over and over and over and over and over and over again. Dale will touch on that next week, I know, because it's a huge reason, I think, that we have the conundrum with the Bible and other scholarly, you know, scriptures, okay, that so many people have today. And I think it's also part of the reason that we've seen different versions of the Bible come out. The Good News Bible over like the last 30 or 40 years, things like that, okay, that are a lot less inherently objectionable, okay, to people. They take a lighter approach and maybe a more metaphysical approach too. But if you're interested in it, check out that Unity Metaphysical Bible website, because it is truly amazing, you know, what you'll find out. I mean, who knows whether any of that stuff is true? I don't know, and you know, I don't care, okay? It's rich in its story, okay, in its teaching capacity, and its you know, the message that it evokes. So, I love you guys. Enjoy. Thank you.